I want to read to you this article. It's called Feminism's Hidden Spiritual Side. It says sometimes, so the writer of this article, you can tell she has a sense of humor. So she's talking about this and she's kind of funny. So she says, sometimes the pursuit of gender equality requires a little witchcraft. That's the subtitle. So this is written by Jessa Crispin. And I'm going to skip the first part because she's just kind of, there's a part where it gets good. The history of feminism tends to be written as a secular movement, one indifferent at best to the spiritual side of life, if not actively hostile. And while that might be true of some individual figures, most of feminist history has emerged from and alongside esoteric developments like spiritualism, theosophy, and paganism. This history is mostly the result of the fact that the development of a feminist consciousness required the interrogation and breaking free, here it is, from the monotheistic Abrahamic religions, which use religious doctrines to justify the political and cultural subjugation of women. A lot of these first women's rights activists and these feminists, they felt like because God, when Adam sinned, they felt like because Eve received, pain during birth, and that her desire would be to control her husband, and he would have rule over her. And I say it that way. I know in the King James Version it doesn't read that way, but it doesn't make sense the way the King James Version says it. This makes the most sense, that she would want to rule over her husband. She would want to control her husband, and he would have rule over her. Because if you look at what is happening in the world, that is exactly what women want to do. They want to be men. They want to do what men do. They want to control him. They want to be in his place. Okay. Just like the enemy wants to tear down the order of God's order, God, man, woman, children. He wants to tear down that order and tear down the image of God. Within Christianity, the story of Eve and the introduction of sin was used to justify everything from forbidding women to be educated to denying pain relief during childbirth, as that pain was supposedly created by God as punishment for women's transgressions. Early women activists found it wasn't effective enough to argue that women should be allowed to go to school or, my God, get some help surviving childbirth. It talks about the black plague and all that, and the women that died from giving birth. They found it was more effective politically to attack directly the source of their oppression, religious authoritarianism. It wasn't just that suffragette Victoria Woodhull was branded a witch by the misogynistic press, depicted in a political cartoon as Mrs. Satan in Harper's Weekly in 1872. She was also literally talking to the dead and participating in spiritualist rituals. Often denied any position of real power in a Christian church, women instead found themselves able to lead services in more fringe sects, which had the added bonus of not being burdened with centuries of misogynistic thinking and text. The emergence of theosophy and the influence of its leader, Madame Helena Blavatsky, gave women alternatives to thinking about their place in the hierarchy. Unburdened by what has been, no, I'm just kidding. Unburdened from the sins of Eve, women like Woodhull argued against women's involuntary domesticity in the heteronormative family, and instead advocated for free love, the rights of sex workers, and reproductive freedom, meaning abortion. Okay. When women like Woodhull and other feminists were taunted as witches and Satanists, as demonic, they embraced these labels with pride. According to anthropologist Catherine Roundtree, an early socialist American magazine based in Kansas that argued for women's liberation took the title Lucifer, the light bearer. So yes, they were on the side of the devil here. Eve was a hero bringing enlightenment. The serpent was a truth teller, and together they fought against an authoritarian and punishing God. As a historian of religion, Per Faxnell has documented, this was a shared experience with many freedom fighters, as various socialists and revolutionaries also embraced the figure of Satan. Notice that, as various socialists and revolutionaries, aka communists, also embraced the figure of Satan as the ultimate symbol of rebellion and liberation. Remember Saul Alinsky, he dedicated his book, known devout communist, he dedicated his book to Lucifer, the first rebellion or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but he dedicated his book to Lucifer, praising him for his rebellion. This push helped reestablish a hard line between church and state, dismantled arguments against allowing women freedom to participate in public life, whether through their careers, politics, or education, and disempowered and marginalized Christian orthodoxy from Western culture. All a setup.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest.
To get your free definitive gold guide and get started learning more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement from uncertain times, visit treasureandtrust.com now. Fill out the basic contact form and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's treasureandtrust.com or call 855-625-7760.